Hello and welcome to Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life. This is Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Johanna. Hey, Johanna.
Hi, Jared.
What are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about what probably everyone has been thinking, which is what do you do, Johanna, when the first 5 minutes of the first day are a total train wreck?
That would never happen, though, right?
Oh, it does happen, yeah.
Oh, so what do you do?
Well, first you have to separate. Are we talking about kindergartners or young students? I guess it could technically be older students too. I've just only experienced it with younger students where they don't know any better. Things are just going very poorly. It's kittens all over the place.
Usually with older students, you're more likely to have a problem like we talked about last time, where it's one or two behavior or engagement problems that are within the group. It's not like the whole class shows up running around like chickens with their heads cut off, right?
Right. I mean, you can definitely have that happen with older students. It's just normally there's a cause for it with older students, whereas younger students, it could be just cause.
We're going to mostly think about younger students when we talk about this?
No, we're going to talk about both, because both are just as bad and just as likely to happen.
Well, is it two different solutions then, or is it the same?
It's the same solution for both, but with slight modifications from the teacher.
Okay, so what do you do?
First thing is to realize that it is going poorly. Denial is really easy. And particularly with young students, it's really easy to say, like, it's okay, we will figure this out. Like, but you have to realize...
Like the little dog with the hat in the comic on the internet.
I don't know what that means.
You don't know about that?
No.
The little dog that's the whole house is on fire and he's got his coffee and he says, this is fine.
I think of it more like that time where we had the bunnies. I wanted to touch one bunny, so I took one bunny out of the hole. And it was cute and nice, and then I put it back, and it would sound the bunny alarm, and all the bunnies would like hop out of the hole, and we'd get almost all of them put back in, and then the very last one or second to last one would reset the alarm, and then bunnies would all come back out of the hole, and it's like, you just keep telling yourself, it's fine, it's gonna be fine, and then it, no.
Maybe we let me handle the analogies.
Oh, was that not good?
Well, no one else probably has your bunny experience.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people have seen this very famous comic on the internet.
I haven't seen it.
Only so many people have been in our yard with with the baby bunnies.
Okay.
If you ever have, the baby bunnies like to stay in their little baby bunny like hole in the ground.
Yeah.
But like they'll make a baby bunny sound that's like eep 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 eep, and then that's a signal to the other bunnies if they're old enough to run. And,
right.
And so getting bunnies back into their little bunny place it turns out hard because they'll go eep, and then it all falls apart. But as an example of denial, the dog with the coffee and the fire is maybe a good one.
Okay.
Because other people have experienced it.
Okay.
Okay,
so once you pop yourself out of denial, I call the first step factory reset. In the classroom, you're positive and you're engaged and you're excited and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If once you pop yourself out of denial, you realize you just got chaos on your team, the trick is to send all the students back into the hallway. Because in the hallway, you can have a different persona than in your classroom.
Okay.
In the classroom, we're all on the same team. I am trying to teach you how to be leaders. There are routines and structures. We all have a purpose and a place. In the hallway, I can be...
A bit more like we don't run in the halls.
Yes. I am the captain. You will follow me. That doesn't mean I get angry or I'm not in control of my emotions. It just means you get them all lined back up again. You reteach the expectation and then you try again. And then if it doesn't go well, you go back out in the hallway, you reteach the expectation, you try again. So I call that factory reset. Everybody's got to leave the room. You got to acknowledge what happened and what you don't do. You re-explain what you do, and then you try. I said do.
I heard that.
And then you try again.
2 or 3 times.
I have...
As many as it takes.
Okay.
Why doesn't
it's
it...
extremely
what
rare.
What if your iPad is just defective and it doesn't matter how many times you factory reset it? Like, why does it get better?
Because they start to function as a team that will get angry at each other. Like, at a certain point, they will realize she's just going to keep making us do this over and over again.
And nobody really wants to do that. So once they...
Right, because you can't get angry. You're not angry. You're not upset. You're just... This is how we walk, right? So if you have kindergartners that are just... Bless their little hearts, they're not meaning to, but they are literally moment one running into the room as kind and as sweet as possible. And I have done it with a class. I can tell you the 2 classes I've spent the entire class time on this. A group of 2nd graders, we did this for 42 minutes. And a group of 8th graders, we did this for 45 minutes. And we never did it again. Like, it does work. Now, by the way, we've talked about how I've had a lot of first days of school, but I counted in between now and the last time, and it is...
How many days?
I'm going to have my 55th first day of school this year.
Wow.
I know.
How's that work?
Well, because I taught on quarters for many years, so that was 4 first days of school in a year, and then now that I teach year-long courses, it's obviously...
I was going to say, I thought maybe for a second you were teaching for 57 years or whatever. But no.
No, so it's just I've had a lot of these experiences, and so that's how I know. Like, it does work. You have to factory reset. You don't get emotional about it. This is how we walk into the room is really a critical skill. And if they're not there yet, then you practice it, make it. Obviously, for the kindergartners, I'm working as hard as I can to make it fun. I do a lot with kindergartners where we pretend. Like, we pretend that there is, like, a creature in the room. We have to be quiet and not wake up the creature, right? Like, give them something that makes them want to do this. Whereas secondary, they might just be being goopers. Or they have had teachers who have never expected a certain standard. And so if you get angry at them, they're going to get resentful. So you just stay real clean and crisp. This is how we do it.
And just do it until it's done, right?
Yes. So we talked about factory reset. The second thing then is be willing to throw out everything you had planned for day 1. Like, in the first 5 minutes.
So if you've downloaded the previous episodes of this podcast and you haven't listened to them yet, go ahead and delete them, because we're going to throw out everything you had planned for day 1, now that we know that everything it's a train wreck, right?
Well,
so you just deleted those episodes. Now
what
do we do?
You know, you're just moving them back, right? So, like, if I had a lot of group activities planned which is what I do, is on that first day I want to get them into small learning communities and learning as teams, and we've talked about that. But if they can't walk into the room correctly, then we've got to go way backwards and really focus on what does it feel like to be a learner.
The philosopher Mike Tyson once said that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So this is the equivalent of that. If you go in and your class in this instance on this first day is Mike Tyson and punches you in the face, you can't just stick to the plan that you know is going to fail. You've got to do your factory reset until the conditions in which your plan can be executed are established.
How do you find these references that I have never heard of? Like, do you make them up?
No.
Okay, I believe you. I've never heard.
You go to Uncle Mike's house. He has a signed Mike Tyson photograph that has that quote on it below the TV in the basement.
Got it. Yeah.
It's one of my old boss's favorite quotes too.
So you be willing to say, if it takes us the entire day to learn how to do this fundamental skill and expectation, then we're going to spend the whole day on it. And because if they need that level of teacher direction, like, nothing else is going to work.
Which is broadly one of the themes that we've talked about here, is that like getting things to look like they're supposed to as an end in itself is a trap that we can fall into, right? Like it feels like you might have wasted a whole day getting people to just enter the classroom correctly. But no, like if you just said, that was good enough and put up with a bad execution, then and said, well, we have to get on with the learning. Many of the things that you're teaching, I think, are that's a bad way to think about things. Because if the foundational elements of being ready to learn are engaged,
right,
there's no point in simulating a classroom where learning might happen.
Right. Well,
you actually have to take the time to make it happen. And it doesn't matter what the cost of that is, because nothing is going to be accomplished unless you pay that cost.
People might create the impression that everything is, well, why would you be so structured about how they walk into the room? Well, it's because if you actually observe my classroom, it feels very unstructured. I mean, kids are all engaged in their own activities and their own learning experiences, and they're talking and communicating with their peers. And the trick is, so I had a once who, bless his heart, he was very old school, and he basically believed there was a right way to teach, and that involved silent kids in rows and a teacher up front. And he comes into my classroom, and my classroom is...
You made fun of me on a previous episode when I suggested that that was a thing that people did. And you're like, no one teaches like that anymore.
Well, I mean, this was a long time ago,
okay.
But
53 years ago when you first started teaching.
Stop it. But so it was his first time in my classroom, and I don't know what he said, but it was some sort of snarky comment about my classroom management. So my class, they knew a procedure that essentially meant everyone freeze. And so I did that. And within, from the moment he said that, I didn't respond. I just had my entire class silent within 3 or 4 seconds.
You're like Anthony Hopkins in Westworld. Like,
I should know.
Like Ed Harris came in and was like giving you crap about something. All of a sudden you're like, something, you like just wave your hand and then all the robots freeze. And it's like, well, here I am the one with the power.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have those ways where it's like, I can get them to all do exactly what I want to at the same time, at the same place. But why would I do that? That's not where learning happens. You do have to have those things that bring everyone back to zero. And for me, that is how we walk into the classroom. Because no matter what has happened before coming to my space, how we walk into the classroom allows us all to become back to neutral. Okay, so we talked about factory reset.
You're sort of defining neutral by engaging in that, because you walk into the classroom right. That's our starting point.
And it's how I know that they're with me. So if I have a class who can't do that, you got to accept nothing else is going to work. It might pretend like it works. I mean, denial is a powerful thing, but you got to realize this isn't going to work.
It's sort of like shining your boots and making your bed in boot camp. Shiny boots don't really help you win wars, but being willing to shine your boots shows that you're committed to the team and the expectations that are placed upon you.
Sure. So, be willing to throw it all out. Factory reset in the hall. Use the hall, not the classroom, because the classroom is for the big group where we are engaged in different types of learning. And then, so we talked about practicing over and over that first expectation that you have for students. But the last thing you need to do is you need to realize you need help. If the first 5 minutes are a disaster, even if you're like, well, I didn't have to do factory reset the whole class time. I only did it 2 times, or I only did it 1 time. You got to realize you have a problem on your hand and you need to get help.
So I'll be a good teacher. I'll send everyone that misbehaves to the office. That's how I get help.
No, that's not how you get help.
Oh, no. What do I do then?
Okay, so this is the hardest part for teachers because we don't want to ask for help that thinks that we're defining ourselves as a bad teacher. I don't come to people who can help me. I don't come to my administration. I don't come to a learning coach or a behavior specialist or whoever it is. I don't go to them and say, well, I don't know what to do. My class is a train wreck and blah, blah, blah. I have the plan and I tell them what I want them to do. First, I want them to observe. And I mean day 2. And I need them there tomorrow. and I want them to observe, and I'm going to tell them exactly what I want them to observe. And for the most part, if the entire class is a train wreck, I need them to figure out who is causing the train wreck, because it's probably 5 or 6 kids, and it could be completely unintentional. It is not about labeling these kids as bad or naughty or anything like that. It really could be completely unintentional.
Could just be the mix.
It could be the mix, but you need them to identify who are the triggers. And you need to be willing to say, their first goal that I want them to do is figure out who are my triggers. Next, I want them to figure out anything I am doing that's causing that student to trigger. Do they notice that if I talk a certain way or look a certain way or stand next to a certain person, am I causing any of it? Now, I will tell you the honest truth. I have had a lot of people come observe my classroom because anytime something doesn't go the way I expect, the next day I have someone in there observing my classroom. And it's extremely rare for them to identify you as the cause. But because you're willing to tell them, I want you to see what I am doing that I should stop doing, they treat it like a partnership. They don't come at you like, well, I'm going to tell you what to do. You've been vulnerable. Kind of what works with your students works with your administration, right? Like, I'm being vulnerable with you. And so they're going to...
Vulnerability builds trust.
Vulnerability builds trust. Yeah.
That's a business thing too.
I want them to observe. I want them to try and figure out my top 5 or 6, whatever's happening. Who are my triggers? Am I a trigger? And then we're going to use that to come up with a solution. And for me, like last year, I had this happen with a kindergarten group where it actually wasn't the first day of school. I'm not sure what happened, but it was like January or I don't know what month it was. But all of a sudden, first 5 minutes of class, it was like chaos was on my team, and every structure and routines the kids had ever experienced, for some reason, they suddenly forgot everything. And so by not chalking it up to, well, that was just one day, instantly requesting help, having the person come in the next day, they then were able to figure out the 5 kids that they thought, who knows why, but for some reason those 5 kids stopped doing everything we had known. And then the plan was that she was going to come into my classroom the next time, day 3, and she was just going to work with those kids that needed retaught the expectations of the class. Again, none of it's negative, but it's allowing me to continue the learning and them to help those students that needed it. And so you got to realize this is a problem bigger than you. You got to ask for help. Tell the help what you want.
Yeah, you don't go and say, I don't know what to do. I need help.
These kids were so naughty and they were all yelling at each other. I don't whine at them.
That's what you're afraid of looking like. And you probably should be afraid of looking like that. But it's a very different thing from going and saying specifically, I want you to observe this student for this behavior because it's going to continue to cause disruptions and I need help to identify a solution for it. Right,
and I don't even say it's going to cause disruptions. I connect it to learning. Everything's about our purpose. Our purpose, our purpose, our purpose. This is a learning space. And if something is preventing a student from learning, then that is paramount.
Including themselves.
Yeah, okay. Or me, or whoever. It doesn't matter. If learning can't happen, then...
We're here to learn.
We are here to learn.
That's the ne plus sine qua non. Sine qua non. We should look that up and then edit in the proper...
I don't even know what you're saying.
There's a Latin phrase, sine qua non, which means without which nothing. It means it's beyond essential.
Okay.
Without which there's nothing at all. And learning is the sine qua non of the classroom.
Sure. I feel like this is a nod and smile situation. Yes.
I'll send you a Wikipedia link. You can learn this very, very smart sounding phrase if you pronounce it correctly the first time you say it. That's step 2 to looking smart. I've read it. I haven't heard other people say it because obviously I'm very smart. That's why I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, we're going to factory reset if we need to.
Right.
Our plan that we talked about in all our other brilliant podcasts is only good if we have like learning conditions. You can't just stick to the plan that we're going to start learning on the first day if you get punched in the face by not even having the ability to enter the classroom correctly.
Right. If you can't have students attempting to meet the expectations, it doesn't mean that they're perfect.
That they're not trying. Right,
but they should have received a direction and be following a direction within the first 5 minutes. And if they can't do that, I suppose it goes without saying, but maybe I should say it, that those first 5 minutes you need to give them a really simple direction to follow so that you can know whether you don't want
to measure failure because they tried and couldn't execute.
Right,
you want to measure failure because they didn't try. That's really what you're screening for at this point. Right. So it's as simple as like go to the right color table and then sit.
But even then you gotta be careful because what if they don't know their colors?
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, just you have to trust that you know your population a little bit better.
And then part of that is you're going to you're going to do it over and over again until it's right, because nothing can happen until this baseline is established.
Right.
This is how we act in the classroom.
And it's because it's everyone. It's not a couple where you can like just help that kid like we've talked about, where you're just reteaching a couple. We're talking like
the class functions wrong.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get help, but not in a I don't know what to do, come help me type way, but in a I do know what to do, come help me type way.
Yes. Here is how you're going to help me. And if they tell you no, if they're like, oh, I'm busy, then you say like, well, who is going to help me? Because I need someone in this room tomorrow. Oh, well, everyone at the school has an obligation during that time tomorrow. Great. Who is someone that we can reach out to at the central office, in our county? Like, don't accept no. This is a very rare situation that occurs. And when it occurs, you need instant help. Because the longer you let it fester, I mean, it's going to multiply in the challenge of fixing.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you for listening to
Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life.